Well, right now, I want to welcome to the program, riding at Bearing Arms. Melanie Fedraw is with us. Melanie, thanks for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I thought your piece at Bearing Arms was really, really interesting. Winning the war on fear. And you say this started with a blog post that you read the other day, sort of a mental exercise,
Yes.
where a woman discussed what she would do if a gun were laying on the ground between her child, and a bad guy.
Yes.
Would she go for the gun? And she answered no. And so you thought you'd see what your friends said.
I did. It kind of intrigued me to see how many people kind of shared that same philosophy.
Why did she say? Did she give a reason as to why she would not go for the gun?
As I recall in the blog, it was mostly just her misunderstanding of the gun and what would happen if she were to pick up that gun. And so it kind of paralyzed her, where she felt the better decision was to stay away from the gun and continue to protect her child from it.
Okay.
So that was kind of
So
how
what did
I
your
interpreted
friends?
it.
Yeah. So what did your friends say when you asked them about this?
Well, it was interesting because a lot of my friends kind of said the same thing. They were like, I wouldn't even know what to do with a gun when I picked it up, and I probably wouldn't pick it up either. And I was like, but I mean, take it out of the equation, just get it away from somebody else who could use it in a bad way. And they were like, I don't know. I don't think that I would do that in the moment. And so it got me to thinking about how much fear can actually paralyze us from making a good decision in a bad situation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And as you say, you say this fear is a little unrealistic. I mean, you talk about half a century ago, 50 years ago, and I get emails from guys occasionally who talk about they're going to their high school rifle practice on the subway with their
Yeah.
22, and nobody batted an eye. Nobody said anything.
Right.
You say guns were normalized. Nowadays, if a kid's hiccup sounds strangely like a pellet gun imitation, they're suspended. They're given a psychiatric evaluation. They're given possibly medication. This removal of ordinary gun culture, where people aren't afraid of firearms because firearms are just normal tools that people own.
Right.
You're right. That fear sort of feeds on itself. I think the gun control advocates, they love this. I mean, they love a society that is afraid of firearms.
Well, sure. It depends on what their stance is. It depends on where they're coming from and what they're hoping to accomplish as the end result. And I know personally, I would like to see people be able to defend themselves and save lives, their own or their child or a loved one. And I just think that in inciting fear and creating this unrealistic fear just keeps people from being able to do that. And I don't. That's the victimization stance, and I just don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, and so you said that the woman in this blog post, she actually went and got some firearms training.
Yeah, she does. She talks about how she went to a range and with some friends and that knew how to shoot, and I think that's the key. And get somebody who's well trained, and they were kind of training her on some things, and she was observing different people with rifles, and she didn't really enjoy the experience, but she could understand people's fascination with guns and why people like guns and why people support having a gun for protection. And so she increased her awareness, which I think is just really cool, because she took that education on herself instead of just letting the media continue to feed her that a gun is bad and a gun should be taken out of the homes or that they're just evil tools that will cause mass destruction. So she was able to really enlighten herself, which I think is just a really cool. I love seeing people do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, and that's the thing. I mean, if first of all, I'm not the type of person who says everybody needs to think like I do. There is room in my worldview for people to disagree with me.
Yes.
But I definitely believe in education.
Yes.
And I think so much of the anti-gun arguments are fueled by and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's fueled by ignorance. It's fueled by a lack of knowledge.
I
So,
agree.
look, even if you don't become an NRA member, you don't become an ardent Second Amendment supporter, to go, as you say, and get if you decided that gun control is an issue, well, then go take a basic pistol class. Go,
Yes.
see what this is all about, and then with that knowledge base, I think the debate and the conversation might be a little bit different than what it is right now.
I think it would. I think it would. And I also think that, just when confronted with a situation where, you even see somebody with a gun, it could be a good guy with a gun. I mean, you have to keep your wits about you, but just not automatically put it in this terror, kind of spot in your life, but actually look at it differently and for what it is, which it is designed to save lives, and it is designed for defense. Not for power and control, but just for defense. And so, that's my goal at any rate, to educate people on that.
Well, listen, Melanie, I appreciate you coming on the program, and I thought it was a very interesting article. It sounds like you have a really interesting background. You've got a master's degree in counseling and human services, and now you work in the tactical industry.
Yes, yes, I do. It's very different. It's a big switch.
I can imagine it would be. At some point, I'd love to delve deeply into this issue of mental health versus gun control.
Yes, it's
with
very
you, just to
interesting.
get your thoughts. Oh, I'm sure you've got some fascinating insights. But I got to ask, what led you to make that career switch? Besides, the firearms industry is a pretty cool industry to work in.
It is a pretty cool industry. I was working in mental health for a while, and I really enjoyed it. I was training with the guys, and an opportunity just came up, and I just jumped on it because it was just interesting to me. And like I said, the psychological side of training and preparation is very fascinating for me, and it was a new avenue that I could pursue, and I'm really hoping to increase that knowledge because I think I have something to offer in that area.
That's awesome. Well, listen, Melanie, thanks for coming on the program, and would definitely like to talk to you again in the near future.
I would love to talk to you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great afternoon. Melanie Fedraw join us, riding again at Bearing Arms